Congressman Tom Price is a friend to the program. He's from Georgia, and he joins us from Washington to respond to the president's criticism.
Hey,
first
Tony.
of all, good to talk to you, Representative Price. First of all, do you think the vote will pass the Senate tomorrow? Do you think that at the end of the day we'll get an extension of these benefits?
Well, it looks like with the new senator from West Virginia that they may in fact have the votes. But the president continues to politicize this, and frankly, Republicans aren't opposed to unemployment insurance. Republicans are opposed to unemployment insurance that's not paid for. If we're borrowing money from China in order to pay our citizens unemployment coverage, unemployment insurance, that's just wrong, and they understand that. The fact of the matter is that the Democrats haven't even passed a budget in this House of Representatives and in this Congress. How do they know how much money they have if they can't pass a budget? So there are ways to solve this challenge, and we ought to be doing it together. But the president continues to make this a very, very partisan issue.
Aren't we borrowing from China to manage our debt in any number of areas, including and beyond unemployment benefits?
Well, sure, absolutely. But unemployment insurance for our citizens who are unable to find jobs right now is absolutely appropriate, but it ought to be done under the budget priorities. We ought to be getting together here in Washington and saying there are priorities that we have as a nation, and unemployment insurance is one of them, and we're going to pay for it. And that's what makes sense to the American people. We cannot continue to borrow and spend our way to prosperity. It won't work.
Yeah, Tom, I want to find out where you live on this issue. You're not opposed to extending unemployment benefits for any other reason other than the deficit. For example, you don't believe that people who are unemployed are lazy, unwilling to accept available jobs. Those aren't the reasons that you're opposed. Is this all about budgets for you?
No. Look, there is a moral hazard. Economists will tell you there's a moral hazard that if unemployment insurance is at a level that makes it so that individuals aren't looking for employment, that then there's a danger. I don't believe we're there. However, unemployment insurance, as you likely know, is continuing for almost 2 years now. And so I think there is a moral hazard that we get into. But the solution to unemployment is jobs. And the fact of the matter is that this administration and this Congress continue to put in place policy after policy after policy that are destructive to job creation out there, whether it's the uncertainty in the taxes, whether it's the health bill that was passed, whether it's the threatening aspects of a possible national energy tax. All those kinds of things go into a formula that says to businesses out there, we cannot create jobs right now because of that uncertainty. That's what we need to turn around.
Well, let's talk about the deficit and deficit reduction. What's the truth on that score? For example, what percentage of debt reduction, in your mind, and you work on these issues, will have to come from spending, and what percentage from tax hikes? A ratio we've heard kicked around is 75 to 25%. 75% of deficit reduction coming from spending and 25% coming from tax hikes.
Sure.
What's your thinking on this?
Well, the fact of the matter is that this administration and this Congress have put in place nearly over $1 trillion, $1.3, $1.4 trillion in the past 2 budget cycles of new spending, of deficit spending. We ought to get to pre-bailout, pre-stimulus levels immediately. If we do that, we, in essence, over a very short period of time, get to the trajectory that if we then decrease spending in the departments at 1 penny on a dollar, we've got a plan that would have 1 penny on a dollar saved over a period of 10 years each year, would balance the budget. Those are the kinds of responsible decisions that the American people are demanding of their leaders here in Washington, which is why you hear the kind of angst and concern and real fear out there across this land, because the American people understand that leaders here in Washington are not tackling these real challenges.
If you want to get to, I'm just reading something from one of our top people at CNNMoney.com, last one for you. If you want to get to a deficit equal to 2% of GDP by 2020, you would have to cut spending or raise revenue or a combination of both to the tune of $675 billion in 2020 alone. How do we really do that? What are your priorities?
Tony, there's this general sense that with the increase in spending through the stimulus and the trillion-dollar deficits that this administration has run, that's our new baseline. That's the new level that we ought to start at. We reject that. We believe that we ought to go back to the pre-bailout, pre-stimulus levels and then decrease spending responsibly from there. If you do that, then you can get this budget under control, and that's what the American people are demanding. And in fact, I would suggest that until we do that, you won't get that vibrant job creation across this country, because businesses, again, don't know whether the government's going to come in and bail out their competitor or change the rules of the game to make it so that they're not certain whether or not they ought to create jobs or not. This uncertainty in the marketplace is huge, and until we address that as a country, we won't see the job creation that's needed to make it so that those individuals out there on unemployment insurance right now will have a job and not have to be looking for that unemployment insurance check.
Okay, Representative Price, as always, good to talk to you. Thanks for your time.